Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. This is Ravindraksha Das from Chicago. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Arvind Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for joining the call and giving daily your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Radha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharajas, and all glories to the assembled devotees. This is Tiffany in Pennsylvania. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Tiffany Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the call and giving your association daily. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj and assembled devotees. This is Shiromani from Krishna Kathadesh. Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Shiromani Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the call and giving your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Radha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Vinita Gandharika Devidasi from Texas.
Hare Krishna, Vinta Gandharika Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the call and giving your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Prabhupada, all glories to Guru Maharaj, all glories to assembled devotees. This is Mohini Lakshmi from Detroit.
Hare Krishna, Mohini Lakshmi Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for joining the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Is there anybody else who would like to introduce themselves?
We can do the introduction.
Hare Krishna. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call. Today we are fortunate to have His Grace Akincana Krishna Prabhuji to enlighten us on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam 5th Canto 18th Chapter verse 14 and 15. First, I would like to request Suresh Sham Prabhuji for giving brief introduction of Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Suresh Sham Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada and Gurudev. I would like to hand over call to you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. A brief introduction about Akincana Krishna Prabhuji. His Grace Akincana Krishna Das hails from Mumbai. He is dedicated full-time to monastic services, Brahmacharya in ISKCON. In the year 1999, he had a short stint working in the industry for 2 years in Blue Star Limited and PC Software Private Limited. After completing his graduation in electronics and communication engineering and postgraduate in business management, served as value educator in schools, Gita for college youth, and gives seminars for corporate young professionals on stress and time management, Gita principles for a satisfying life, and motivational seminars for youth in ISKCON's Chaupati's Prerana Youth Festival. He is a regular Srimad Bhagavatam speaker in ISKCON Girgaon Chaupati. He has been taking weekly spiritual discourses for devotee communities in Panvel, Karghar, and Seawoods, South Mumbai. He also organizes 2-month spiritual trips and talks for the British sabbatical youths from the Bhakti Vedanta manor every year. Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Back to you, Mataji.
Mataji, you are muted, Mataji. Please unmute.
Hare Krishna, Akincana Krishna Prabhu ji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much for giving your valuable time as association to us this morning on enlightening on the topic of Srimad Bhagavatam. Welcome to Bhakti Sangha conference call, Prabhu ji. I would like to hand over call to you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye. Nashta Prayesha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtami. Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namaha. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakya Chakshuranmiritam Tena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, greetings at the lotus feet of all the assembled devotees. It's such a pleasure to again meet after a gap of a month or so. Thank you for the opportunity to serve all of you. It's a privilege and honor to be given this service of speaking Srimad Bhagavatam. One of my favorite services is to speak on this topic. So today we are, I was requested to speak on the 5th canto, 18th chapter, 14th and the 15th verse. This is the verse. I hope that you can see. Yes, is it visible?
Yes, Prabhu.
Tasmad rajuraga vishadamanyu manas priha bhayadainyadhimulam hitva graham samsmriti chakravalam narsimhapadam bhajata kudo bhayam. Okay, I'll just read the translation and skip the word to word. Therefore, O demons, give up the so-called happiness of family life and simply take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Narasimhadev, which are the actual shelter of fearlessness. Entanglement in family life is the root cause of material attachment, defatigable desires, moroseness, anger, despair, fear, and the desire for false prestige, all of which result in the repetition of birth and death. Ketumalepi Bhagavan Kamadeva Sparupena Lakshmyaha Priya Chikirshaya Prajapate Tuhittarvarnenam Tuhitrinam Putranam Tadvarshapatinam Purushayushahu Ratra Parisankhyananam Yasam Garbhamaha Purusha Mahastra Tejas Od Vejitam Manasam Vidvasta Dosai Vaha Samvatsarante Dinipatanti. This is our in prose, so there is no meter for it. Translation. Shukdev Goswami continued, in the tract of land called Ketumala, Varsha, Lord Vishnu lives in the form of Kamadev only for the satisfaction of his devotees. These include Lakshmiji, the goddess of fortune, the Prajapati Samvatsara, and all of Samvatsara's sons and daughters. The daughters of Prajapati are considered the controlling deities of the nights, and his sons are considered the controllers of the days. The Prajapati's offspring number 36,000, and one for each day and night, and in the lifetime of a human being. At the end of each year, the Prajapati's daughters become very agitated upon seeing the extreme effulgent disk of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus they all suffer miscarriages. Purport: this Kamadev, who appears as Krishna's son named Pradyumna, is Vishnu Tattva. Now, how this is so is explained by Madhvacharya, who quotes from the Brahmanda Purana, Kamadeva Sthitam Vishnu Upasti. Although this Kamadev is Vishnu Tattva, his body is not spiritual but material. Lord Vishnu, as Pradyumna or Kamadev, accepts a material body, but he still acts spiritually. It does not make any difference whether he accepts a spiritual or a material body. He can act spiritually in any condition of existence. Mayavadi philosophers regard even Lord Krishna's body as material, but their opinions cannot impede the spiritual activity of the Lord. So, is my voice audible to all of you? Should I speak louder?
I can hear you.
So, now the 14th verse, actually, in fact, the 7th verse to the 14th verse are prayers by Prahlad to Lord Narasimha in Harivarsha. And from the 15th verse to the 23rd verse are prayers by Lakshmi to Pradyumna, who is the presiding deity of Ketumal Varsha. So 14th and 15th these two verses belong to two different themes, two different sections. So the 14th, prayers by Lord Prahlad to Lord Narasimha, and 15th verse belongs to another category of prayers by Lakshmi to Kamadev or Pradyumna. Now let us go to the 15th verse first. Since there is a purport here, then if there is time, we will go back to the 14th verse. Here in the translation, it is said that the residence of Ketumal Varsha is the Prajapati and all their sons and daughters. And it is explained that actually the Prajapati, in the Shruti it is said that Samvatsaro Vai Prajapati, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, Samvatsaro Vai Prajapati, which means that the Prajapati is in charge of the year, 360 days. There is a deity in charge of the time, like the year, the months, the fortnights, the times of the day. There is a deity in charge of the part or of each time they have been allocated. That's why they say that when a person leaves his body, the time when he left his body can be used to calculate his destination. Just as a person, when he is born, the time that he is born, the place that he is born, and the constellation are considered in order to determine his qualities and things like that. Because when a soul leaves the body or when he arrives into a body, there are certain deities who pass on the soul. The soul travels from one god to another god. And all the gods line up at a certain time. You see. Therefore, Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, he says that there are two ways of leaving the body. One is when you go and you don't come back, and another is when you go and you have to come back. One is a path of pravritti, one is a path of nivritti. That means one is a path of bondage, one is a path of liberation. Yogis take the path of liberation. So how is that established? The Lord establishes it by these controlling deities. These controlling deities of time, like here it is said that there are 36,000. How do you come to that conclusion? So if 1 year has got 360 days, so that means the sun is in charge of the day and the daughters of Prajapati are in charge of the night, is it not? Yes, so that is how it is. So the daughters are in charge of the night. So there are 360 days in a year, and a human being lives for 100 years. That is in the age of Kali Yuga. So that has been considered here in this prayer, anticipating that people in the age of Kali Yuga will live for 100 years. So 100 into 360 gives you 36,000 years. 36,000 days, I'm sorry. So that's why. So that means Prajapati has how many offsprings? 36,000. And they all live in this Ketumal Varsha, and they're offering their prayers to Pradyumna. Yes, so I hope that technically that is clear. The Acharyas have cleared it that way. So these are all gods who are taking care of the, like in the days, the Ashta Prahar, there are 8 Praharas in 24 hours. One Prahar is 3 hours. So that way, you see that even 45 minutes is governed by a particular god. Then when that hour changes or that 45 minutes changes, and another god comes into play, he is in charge of the time. And anyone leaving the body or coming into this world will have to come through that god or leave through that god. He takes that soul like a parcel, like a courier, you see. When you order from Amazon, then you see that when you track your package, it has left the go down, then it is with this courier, then it's handed over to that courier, local courier, and you can see this. Similarly, the souls are couriered from its beginning spot to the end spot by these gods who are in charge of the different times of the day. So now here they are praying. They, including Lakshmi, is offering their prayers to Pradyumna, who is the son of Krishna. Now Pradyumna is also Kamadev, Ananga. Another name for Kamadev is Ananga. Why is he called as Ananga? Yes, because the story goes, the Puranic story goes that Ananga or Kamadev or god of love was once trying to test Lord Shiva's self-control while he was sitting in meditation. And Lord Shiva is beyond material sense gratification. So when he was tested, he became disturbed, and he didn't become disturbed, he became angry actually. He didn't lose his self-control in that sense, but he became angry that who is this person who's trying to break my meditation on Lord Vishnu, on Lord Ram. And he opened his eyes, and he opened his third eye, and Kamadev, the god of love, was burned to ashes, and he became known as Ananga. Ananga in Sanskrit means one who does not have anga. Anga means without a body. So therefore, the god of love doesn't have a body. That sense. So therefore, Lord Shiva killed him. And all the gods got together, and there was a fiasco. How can the universe go on without a god? I mean, every god has its place in the universal management. And you see that Lord Sri Krishna then brought Kamadev back by making him his own son and giving him a body. And that same Ananga was born as Krishna's son, as Pradyumna. And that's why we also say that what makes Krishna even higher than Lord Shiva, because it is easier to kill someone. Lord Shiva could not be controlled by an anga, by Kamadev, and neither is Krishna controlled by Kamadev. But you see, Lord Shiva ended up killing him, and Lord Krishna ended up adopting him as a son. Now, which is higher? Both conquered the god of love. Shiva conquered through violence, and Krishna conquered him by love. The god of love couldn't conquer Shiva. He cannot. And neither can Pradyumna, who is also god of love, control Krishna, because Krishna is father. A son cannot control his father. Father controls the son. Yes. So, that's again what we say. Now here the point is that even though Pradyumna is the son of Krishna and he's an incarnation, as it is explained here, Pradyumna is actually now, because he's in touch with the Supreme Lord, and at the end of each year, Prajapati's year, you can see the extreme effulgent disk of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thus they all suffer miscarriages. So anyway, what they are praying is here, Lord Vishnu lives in the form of Kamadev. So now what is it's Pradyumna that we are talking about, Lord Krishna's son, who is Vishnu Tattva. Now he's purified in all sense, and he's known as Vishnu Tattva here, which means he's non-different from Krishna. But he has a material body, Madhvacharya says, and that does not make him less in any ways. Does not make him less in any ways, because even though he may have a material body, because it is used in Krishna's service, it is spiritual by all means. And Prabhupada gives in his conversations with his devotees, he says that a guru's body is spiritual. And he quotes that verse, Arche Vishnu Shiladhir Gurushu Naramati Vaishnave Jati Buddhi. To think that the guru's body is material is Jati Buddhi. Naraki Saha, such a person has got a hellish, is destined to go to hell. He's got a hellish mentality. And Prabhupada explains the guru, Acharya, because he's 100% engaged in the service of the Lord, his body starts manifesting all the symptoms of spiritual qualities, spiritual element. Just as an iron rod is placed in fire, begins to act like fire, it's no longer metal anymore, it's fire for all practical purposes. You take a piece of paper and touch it to the iron rod and it burns. Similarly, because Prabhupada was speaking to a Mayavadi at that time, Mayavadi said, no, actually, Guru's body is material because he also eats, he also sleeps, he also passes stool and urine, and he also has to die one day. Prabhupada said, no, that is Mayavad. Scriptures say, Arche Vishnu, Shiladhir Gurushu Naramati. And he quotes this from the Padma Purana. Arche, Vishnu, which means that the deity of the Lord, even the Lord's deity in the temple is made of material elements, is it not? Logically speaking, what is it made of? It's carved out of marble or stone or wood or paint. But scriptures say Arche Vishnu, that has to be considered spiritual, non-different from the Lord. Sheela, it is made of stone, but no, it is spiritual. If someone says it is Sheela, it is stone, means Gurushu Naramati, and one who considers Guru as an ordinary human being. Vaishnave Jati Buddhi, or one who sees that a Vaishnav or a devotee of Lord Sri Krishna who is chanting or following the principles of Krishna consciousness, who is rendering service to the Lord. Oh, he belongs to a lower caste, he's not a Brahmin, or he's not a Kshatriya, he's not a Vaishya, or something like that. To see him in one of the four classes, even to call a devotee a Brahmin or a Kshatriya or anything, it's actually Jati Buddhi. You shouldn't see the caste, you shouldn't go to that background. Why? Because he is Vishnu Jan. He's totally beyond the caste, material considerations. In that way, Prabhupada corrected this Mayavadi who was trying to say that Guru is material, but he will give us spiritual benefit. But Prabhupada denied it and said that no, a Guru is completely spiritual. He must be considered such, and only then you will get perfection and attain perfection. Yasya prasadat bhagavat prasado, yasya aprasadat nagati kato. So also, we see that there are two definitions of spiritual. One is Satchidananda spiritual, and another, whichever is used in the service of Krishna, is spiritual. Prabhupada gives the example of flour. When used for material things, it is material. But if you use that flour and offer it to Krishna, then that becomes spiritual. Microphone is used for singing a Bollywood song, it becomes material. But if you're using it for bhajan, kirtan, it is spiritual. That Aksharam Brahma. Generally, Brahma means spiritual is defined as Akshar, that which is not destroyed, that which is eternal. Isn't it? When Arjuna asks, what is Kim Tat Brahma, Kim Adhyatmam, what does Krishna say? Aksharam Brahma. Swabhavam Adhyatmam Uchyate. But there is another definition of spiritual, which is given in the Purana. That whatever is used in Krishna's service, the Guru's body is also spiritual by all means. And here Pradyumna, even though he has a material body, he is Vishnu Tattva. Here is a classical, another example to prove that way. And see, that's why Prabhupada is also saying here, Mayavadi philosophers regard even Lord Krishna's body as material, and their opinions cannot impede the spiritual activity of the Lord. That is why Mayavadis are called as Krishna Aparadhis, who say that Krishna is a material body, when Lord Brahma himself is proclaiming, Ishvaraha Paramaha Krishnaha Satchidananda Vigraha Anadiradir Govinda Sarva Karana Karanam. So why are these people saying that Krishna has got a material body? You know, in Prabhas Tirtha, Dwarka, how many of you all have been there? Prabhas Tirtha, the place from where Lord Sri Krishna disappeared. Yes, some of you might have been there. Gujarat, very beautiful place. Banks of the ocean, Arabian Sea, very nice, wonderful place. That was a place where Krishna and Balaram performed their final pastimes. From there they disappeared, went back to the spiritual abode. So at that very spot, there was a board put up by, whatever the local managements there, and it was there for some days. That board read that God died here. This is the place where God died. So one of our devotees went there and he saw that board and he said, how can God die? I mean, someone who dies cannot be God. And if someone is God, he cannot die. So why is that board put up where God died here? So many people have these misconceptions. The Mayavadi theory is very popular amongst many of the Indians, in fact, all over the world. So I think the soul's inherent nature to be impersonal. All those who have not surrendered to Krishna, to some extent, they have these impersonalistic understandings, which is actually a part of ignorance. And therefore, Prabhupada very clearly states that their opinions cannot impede the spiritual activity of the Lord. Going to the previous verse, which does not have a purport, we will still read it. Therefore, O demons, give up the so-called happiness of family life and simply take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Narasimhadev. which are the actual shelter of fearlessness. Entanglement in family life is a root cause of material attachment. Indefatigable desires, moroseness, anger, despair, fear, and the desire for false prestige, all of which result in the repetition of birth and death. So, we have to understand that certainly household life can influence us in these ways that have been described. There are many temptations, material attachments, desires, moroseness, all these problems are there. We have to understand. That's why many rishis, they speak about these things: detachment, renunciation, sannyas. And here Prahlad Maharaj himself is saying, give up the so-called happiness of family life and simply take shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Narasimha. And in the 7th canto, 5th chapter, Prahlad also speaks the verse, and he mentions this point there also. He says, Tat sadhumanye suravarya dehinam sada samudvigna dhyama sadgrahat Yitvatmapatam grahamandhakupam vanam gato yat dharimashrayeta. That sadhumanye suravarya dehinam. He's telling his father, Suravarya, you are the greatest of all the asuras, leader of all the asuras. The Tat sadhumanye and the great saints, they say that sada samudvigna dhyam, that you are always in anxiety, and generally people who are materialistic people, they are sada samudvigna. They always seem to be in anxiety, anxious, restless, morose, angry. They are always in despair, fearful, always want honor, glorification. So he says, sada samudvigna dhyam. Dhyam means dhi, buddhi. The intelligence is always trapped in these things. Why? The reason being asadgrahat. Because by the very fact that household life or home is not permanent, it is asat. It is not a permanent place. I remember in one congregation program, one lady, she came for the first time. After my talk, she came in and she's asking me, I'm always fearful. I'm always fearful. I love my family so much. I love my husband so much. I'm afraid that one day I may lose them. So natural, is it not? That along with all material attachments, which brings happiness, which brings some kind of happiness and satisfaction, it also brings about fear of loss. Because by the very nature, everything material, a house, asat grahat, is temporary, because it's based on the body. And along with the body, everything will be left behind. Sada samudvigna dhyam asad grahat hitvatma patam grahamandhakupam. So therefore, give it up. This andhakupam, this blind well, he's comparing to house, to home, materialistic home. Hitvatma, hitva, give it up. Vanam gato, and go to the forest, my dear father. Dharim ashrayeta, take shelter, ashray. Therefore, grahastha, ashram, it comes from this word ashray, Sanskrit word ashray, which means to take shelter of the Lord. Ashray means shelter. Grahastha ashram, which means that the husband and wife agree to come together to take shelter of the Lord. That is the main goal. Today, everything is forgotten. Maybe that is no longer the goal. And in the age of Kali Yuga, Prabhupada often quotes this word that in the age of Kali Yuga, man and a woman may just simply come together in wedlock to enjoy sense pleasure. That is all. Dampatya hetu viruchi. Simply, okay, they like each other, okay, they'll have some enjoyment, okay, then they come together. There is no conception of ashray or worshipping Krishna. Self-realization. So therefore he says, Vanam gato, go into the forest, and Harim ashrayeta, take shelter of Hari Krishna. But now we have to understand this, that after Prahlad speaking so strongly condemning household life, did Prahlad become a sannyasi? Now he spoke this verse when he was a kid, he was 5 years old. So what did he do? When he grows up, he becomes a brahmachari in the ashram of his Shukracharya. No, he takes up to household life, and he has sons and grandsons and come to think of it. So how do we understand this? He condemns household life, and then he enters into household life. Why didn't he become a brahmachari? Why didn't he become a sannyasi? Now Prahlad Maharaj, you see, is a Mahajan. Srimad Bhagavatam in the 6th canto, 3rd chapter, the Mahajans, 12 Mahajans have been mentioned. You know those. Swayambhur, Narada, Shambhu, Kumara, Kapilo, Manu, Prahlado, Janako, Bhishma, Balir, Vaiyasakir, Vayam, Dvadashete, Vijanimo, Dharmam, Bhagavatam, Bhataha, Guhyam, Vishuddham, Durubhodam, Yam Yatpamritam Ashnu. So, Dvadashete Vijanimo, there are 12 personalities who know Dharma, Bhagavat Dharma. They are known as Mahajanas. And one of them is Prahlad. And there are others like Swayambhu, that means Brahma, Narada, Shiva, the 4 Kumaras, Kapil, and then Swayam, then Manu, and then Bali and Shukadev, Goswami, and Yamaraj. All these are there. And if you see that amongst all these people, how many of them are brahmacharis? Only Narada is a brahmachari, the Kumaras were brahmacharis. Bhishma also circumstantially he became a brahmachari. Otherwise he was on his way to become a householder. He's a Kshatriya. Kshatriyas don't generally take sannyas. He didn't become brahmachari. It's not their nature. So you see that amongst the 12 Mahajans, there is a combination of grahasthas and brahmacharis. It's not that if you have to become a pure devotee, you have to be a brahmachari or a sannyasi. So then how do we understand it? That Prahlad Maharaj is condemning and he says, go to the forest, and he's telling his own father to give up this materialistic life. Right? For example, our Acharya, Srila Prabhupada, he was grahastha. Even you see Acharya Ramanujacharya, he was a grahastha. So now, how do we understand that? So you see, Srila Prabhupada and even Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Acharyas, like he had 10 children. Bhaktivinoda Thakur had produced 10 children, Acharya. Someone may think, but he's like, how come? There seems to be a contradiction here. Speak about renunciation and then you have 10 children. Well, why not? Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said that I was not qualified to enter Grihastha ashram. If I was qualified, I would have got married and I would have produced 100 children. But it was not for me. I did not have that sense control, that Krishna consciousness. And you see that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is one of the 10 sons of Bhaktivinoda. So there is nothing wrong with Grihastha ashram. Yeah, then why is Prahlad Maharaj saying? So what is wrong? Therefore, there is a saying, at the right time, like for example, when Prabhupada's, wife became against all the spiritual things that he was trying to do, that was the time when Prabhupada decided enough is enough, and he left home and took sannyas. Because that now became an impediment to his spiritual progress. You might have heard this, that he wrote commentary on Bhagavad Gita. The commentary on Bhagavad Gita that we read here is not the original which he had written. The first commentary which he wrote was sold in Radhi. In, you know what, in Hindi they say Radhi mein bech dena. Old newspapers you pile up, and in India they sell it, and you get money for it, old newspapers. So his wife, because they were hard pressed for money, or rather Indian families, they always do that. So she saw that book in which Prabhupada had written the commentary on all the verses of the Gita, and she sold it. And with that money, she had purchased tea, and she was drinking tea. And Prabhupada was so furious with her. He asked her, "Do you want tea or you want me? You have to decide." He put his foot down, and she was continued to drink tea, and she's smilingly and in a joking manner, she said, "Well, I prefer tea." Wives generally joke like that. But then Prabhupada took it seriously, and he left home, and he took sannyas eventually. And we see in the story of Ramanujacharya, he was also a very Krishna conscious householder, but he was not getting any support from his wife. Ramanujacharya was a Brahmin by birth and a great Vaishnava, and he was a aspiring disciple of Kanchi Purna. He used to love him very much. Kanchi Purna was a great devotee of the Lord. He used to live there in Kanchipuram, and but he was not born in a Brahmin family. So Ramanujacharya didn't care, because, as I just said, that devotee's vision is on the spiritual plane. They do not see a devotee's caste or color or race or all these things. So he naturally accepted him as a devotee and sought his shelter and guidance and inspiration. And with the intention of serving him and honoring his remnants of prasad, invited Kanchi Purna to his home for lunch. So Kanchi Purna understood that, Ramanujacharya will feed me, and then he will take my remnants from my plate. And he was embarrassed, because he was, in traditional India, low caste people would not be allowed into the houses of Brahmins. They would be given food and everything at the doorstep. Outside of that, that was the practice in the 500. We are talking about 1,000 years ago. Very, very orthodox society. Caste system was very prevalent. And imagine that in those times, for a Brahmin to invite a Shudra inside the home and feed him, or wherever, maybe even outside, whatever, was quite revolutionary. And Ramanujacharya was a social reformer by all means. He understood Bhagavad Dharma. Absolutely. He didn't care, he was a Shudra or whatever. He invited him home. So Kanchi Purna said, "I will come." So what Kanchi Purna decided, are you all there? I mean, am I being heard? Can you all hear me? Is my voice audible to all of you?
Yes, Prabhuji, you can able to hear. Thank you.
Okay. So Kanchi Purna, in order to avoid the embarrassment of Ramanujacharya directly serving him, comes at a time when Ramanujacharya was not at home. He comes home and he tells his wife, Ramanujacharya called me, can you please give me something to eat? And the wife served him prasad and all. He ate it. He wound up his plate, the leaf plate he wound up, and left no remnants absolutely, and threw that in the dustbin. So Ramanujacharya came back home that day. His wife tells him that Kanchi Purna had come. He took meals and he left. He said that you had invited him. So Ramanujacharya was surprised. He said, "How is it that he came?" And "Oh, really? Oh, that was so unexpected. I thought that he would come while I was here." He said, "No, I don't know. He just came and So I just took a bath, after cleaning that place where he ate. and I threw his remnants far away like that. So wife just disposed everything, did not leave anything. She cleansed it with cow dung and purified it, because she felt that if a low caste person comes and eats in your house, then that becomes dirty. So she cleansed it, purified it, and she took a bath. And here was Ramanujacharya, who was considering that because he stepped inside the house and ate in that place, he purified that place. And his wife was thinking that this man who's low caste has come and has purified that place. See the difference in consciousness. And he was thinking, where are the remnants? I wanted to take his remnants. And his wife said, I disposed it, because it was a source of contamination. And this was not the first time it had happened. Before also, when he had invited some other Vaishnavas to his home, his wife quarreled with them and was having a lot of problems. And so the wife was very orthodox and ritualistic, and she did not have devotional sentiments. She had more of the caste Brahmin sentiments only. So she was not supporting Ramanujacharya in his mood of service. So that was the time that Ramanujacharya decided that better to leave him. That's it, I've had enough. This is not the only case. Many such incidences happened. If you read the biography of Ramanujacharya, I'm sure that many of you might have already. So Ramanujacharya, he left home and took sannyas. So it is recommended sometimes to give up when things become intolerable, when practice of Krishna consciousness becomes impossible. Yeah. But otherwise, it is actually recommended. If you see in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, when Arjun wanted to take sannyas, he says, no, enough of all the Kshatriya duties, I'll just take sannyas. What did Krishna say? Sri Bhagavan Vacha, 5th chapter, 2nd verse. Sannyasah karma yogascha nishreyasa karavubhav tayostu karma sannyasat karma yogo vishishyati. He's saying, sannyasah karma yogascha. That taking sannyas, karma sannyas and karma yoga. There are two parts. Karma yoga is what you do at home, fulfilling your household duties, taking care of your wife, children. And karma sannyas is when you give up household life and give up your materialistic duties. You are socially dead. You enter into priestly activities. So that is karma sannyas and one is karma yoga. So he says, nishreyasa karavubhav. Okay, both are nice, both are good, all right, fine. But he says, tayos tu karma sannyasat. Now he's making a judgment and he's saying that better than karma sannyas is what? Karma yoga vishishyate, vishesh. That means special. What? Karma yoga. That means to stay at home, fulfill your duties, and then practice spiritual life. Krishna consciousness is considered superior to karma sannyasa. So he's telling Arjun that don't try to renounce your duties. Karma yoga is superior to karma sannyas. And what is sannyas? What is sannyas actually? How does Krishna define sannyas? In the 6th chapter, 1st verse, he says, Sri Bhagavan Uvacha Anashrita Karma Phalam Karyam Karma Karoti Yaha Sannyasi Cha Yogi Cha Niragnirna Cha Kriya. Anashrita Karma Phalam, one who is not attached to the fruits of his work and who works in obligation only working because of obligation. He is not attached, he doesn't want anything out of the duty that he is doing. He is detached completely. He is actually a sannyasi. Not that person who is simply giving up household life and living in the forest, but he's thinking or meditating about enjoying things. The real sannyasi is one who in his mind is detached, not someone who's externally given up household duties. That's why they say in English that you live in a house, but don't let the house live in you. Drive a car, but don't let the car drive you. And you see, when you have to discuss these subjects, you end up giving examples from Sri Sampradaya. They are beautiful stories, really beautiful to clarify these concepts. One story comes to me is about Ramanujacharya's one disciple known as Dhanurdas. And whenever he was a low caste person, he was not a Brahmin by any means. And whenever Ramanujacharya would come out of the river Kaveri after taking his bath, he would have his disciples help him out, and he would have his one hand around some other senior devotee and another hand around the neck of this Dhanurdas, who was not even as I said. So now the brahmacharis from the ashram of Ramanujacharya felt a bit insecure that why is Ramanujacharya giving so much importance to this low class person? Well, grahastha, they are lower than us. We are brahmacharis, we are sannyasis, and why? Ramanujacharya, though they did not mention it to Ramanujacharya, he understood. So Ramanujacharya decided to make a point. So then what he did one day, he sent his brahmacharis, ashram residents, and called for Dhanurdas. Dhanurdas left. Now his wife was alone at home. So now what Ramanujacharya did was send another group of ashram residents to the home of Dhanurdas to steal from his wife, from his home. So those disciples went there in the night, and his wife was sleeping next to the window. Now they started putting their hands through the window and started taking out, her earrings, and probably they already stole something from the house, some gold earrings she was wearing. So they decided to steal that also. They were surrendered. Now you may ask that how come, they would have questioned their Maharaj, Guru, that why are you engaging us in stealing, and we can't do this. No, but this actually happened. Sharing with you. They actually were very obedient, and they went and they put their hand to the window and started taking out the earrings of Dhanurdas's wife. Obviously, when someone touches your ear, you're going to wake up. So she woke up and she peeped and she saw that these are brahmacharis from our Guru Maharaj's ashram. They have come here and they're trying to steal. Now, what was the reaction? She thought, oh, if they are my Guru's disciples, they are my god brothers, and if they are coming to steal, that means, okay, I should be of some service. So what she did was she pretended to continue sleeping, and she just turned over so that now they removed one earring. They wanted to show their second earring also. So then she did that. But while she turned, so brahmacharis, they are not professional thieves. They got very frightened and they ran away from there. And they hid behind the bush. So in the meanwhile, Dhanurdas comes back home and the wife opens the door. And first thing Dhanurdas sees is that wife is wearing earring only in one ear. He inquires and she says so and so, blah, 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 blah. And the husband becomes very angry. At whom? Not on the brahmacharis for coming and stealing the ornaments, but on the wife, because she had apparently frightened the brahmacharis and they were not able to take the other earrings also. And she said, oh, just see how unfortunate and silly lady you are that you couldn't be of much service to our Maharaj, Guru Maharaj. Give me that earring, I will take it to my Guru Maharaj. Whatever I have is all for Guru's service. And all this was witnessed by the brahmacharis. And one day in the ashram, Ramanujacharya, he went and exchanged the kopins, or he tore the kopins of one or two brahmacharis. You know, the underwear of that brahmacharis wear or sannyasis wear called as kopin. So he went and he tore it up. And in the morning when they woke up for Mangalarti, they found that somebody's kopin was missing and something. So they became very upset and they started arguing with each other. Why did you tear my kopin? Why did you misplace my kopin? And you know, there was a huge altercation there. Finally, then Ramanujacharya called them all and then instructed them and told them, just see, you people are living in the ashram, you all are meant to be renounced. At least that is what we expect of you. But just see, when your kopins were misplaced or when your kopins or underwear was torn, you all started arguing with each other over something so trivial. And what did you witness at Dhanurdas's house? When you went to steal their gold ornaments, there was not a complaint. In fact, they were happy to serve. So now you say, who deserves the mercy? Who deserves more attention, you or them? Probably he did not say this, but the brahmacharis themselves got the idea, they got the message that truly real sannyasi, real renouncement is a person who is detached. You may live in a house, you may live in the forest, it doesn't matter. A sannyasi is known for his detachment. His willingness to serve the Vaishnava community. I remember when I had gone for book marathon in Gujarat, there was one initiated devotee there whose wife had gone to her mother's place because she was pregnant. So he opened his house to all the brahmacharis. About 5 or 6 of us, we just camped. We were sleeping on the bed, we were using his kitchen, we were cooking, and he was sleeping on the ground, on the floor, as if like he was a servant. And he would make all arrangements. And during the daytime, he would come with us for book marathon. In the night, he had night duty, he would go and work. I was amazed, simply amazed to see his dedication to serving devotee community. At that time, I realized this, that it really does not matter who's a brahmachari, who's a sannyasi. All matters is how much we are detached from material energy and how much we are dedicated to serving the Lord and the Lord. That's all. Sannyasi is not known by his dress, or a devotee is not known by his dress. It only takes 10 minutes to dress up as a devotee, put tilak and wear whatever dress. But it may take more than 10 lives to actually become one. It's a long process. Like a police inspector. Who is a police inspector? One who wears a uniform. That is just an external. There are so many people who are, actors and they wear uniforms. Do they become policemen? So what makes a man policeman? Not just his uniform, but his training. by his inspiration, by the authority which has been invested in him. It's not simply the cloth, not simply the uniform. So also, it's not simply the order that we are in. We are in the house, or we are having colored clothes, or we are having saffron cloth, or we are having a head shaved, or we are having, these are all extras. It doesn't really matter. So what Prahlad Maharaj is saying here is that when he says that give up so-called happiness of family life and simply take shelter of the lotus feet, does not mean that give up your family. It says give up the happiness. That means give up the attachments. Use whatever you have. Don't give up, but join up. Use whatever you have in Krishna's service. Krishna has given us, Krishna will take it away. But before he takes it away, you give it to him. And you see in the Krishna book, Shrutadev Bahulashva, Shrutadev was a Brahmin, simple Brahmin. Bahulashva was a king. They were living in Mithila. Lord Shri Krishna went with all the sages into their homes. They were householders. One was a Brahmin and one was a king. They were householders. They were not sannyasis. In fact, he took many sannyasis and rishis, Narada, Devala, Asita, and all these great rishis were there. He took them to householders' home. The king welcomed the Lord with great pomp, great facilities. But that simple Brahmin offered, wooden planks and straw mats to all these people. But the Lord was very pleased, and he continued to stay in their homes for so many days and gave them blessings and took them both back to Godhead. Lord saying that doesn't matter, these externals are nothing. Doesn't matter at all. Sve sve karmani abhiratah samsiddhim labate nara. Whatever are your duties, your ashram, just be there. And if you worship me, you will attain samsiddhi. You will get bhakti. So, Viheta ko, Vaneta ko, Sada Hari Boleta. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Mahaprabhu is quoting Mahaprabhu, he says, Viheta ko, Vaneta ko. Whether you are at home or you are in the forest, Sada Hari Boleta ko. Always chant, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram. So these are some thoughts. Hare Krishna. If somebody wants to comment, feel free to do so.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very enlightening class. Very nicely explained so many points, how to serve the devotees, like that. I'm requesting devotees, if anybody have any questions or realization, please go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavad. Thank you very much, Prabhu, for a very nice, beautiful class. And I think you focused more on, working with detachment, right, Prabhu? Like the verse you quoted from 6.1. But how to, gradually rise, Prabhu? How do we see that we are rising on that platform of detachment and working?
That's why we need the process. By following the process, which Prabhupada has always given us. The process, the solution is the same. We are only getting the understanding. The process does not change. Wherever you go, ultimately you come to that process. You chant Hare Krishna, serve devotees with whatever you have. And that's how we go.
So,
Acharya says that Utsaha, Nishchaya, Dhairya, Tat Pravartana, have enthusiasm, have confidence. Tadati, Patigaranati, Goyamakhyati, Vichadi, Bhunte, Bhojate. So all the process, associate with devotees, give them gifts, we receive gifts, attend satsang programs regularly. A, B, C, D. Association, books, chanting, and diet. These are the 4 things which we all should be doing. And that is the most important thing is association. That's why it is a first. And these are wonderful ways of associating. Zoom. You're sitting at home and you're connected to the Bhakti Sangha. So I think you all are doing it. And you all are doing it regularly. Bhagavad lectures and kathas and learning from so many advanced devotees. So I'm sure that most of you are already in the process. You may not know it. Like, you're sitting in a ship in the middle of the ocean. Sometimes you do not realize that you're moving. The ship seems to be stationary because you don't see a land as a reference for you to know that you're moving because the ocean is saying everything. So similarly, when you are in the boat of ISKCON or Krishna consciousness, you really do not know whether you're making progress or not. But yes, you can compare your progress by what you were in the past. If you've been chanting 16 rounds, okay, then you may increase it. Say on Ekadashi, you do extra rounds. You have not been offering regularly, but now you started offering. You've not been serving devotees, something like that, so you can start doing that. So compare yourself with what you were in the past, and that way you know that that is the general formula for it.
thank you very much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare.
So, Prabhu, one question. Recently, I was talking to a friend, and he was saying, your ISKCON. Yeah, I said yes. So, you guys don't do you guys what? Don't do eat meat. You guys don't do onion, garlic, right? It was kind of critic. Then I said, no, we are not all this. You eat or you eat doesn't matter, right? We are only focused on, glorifying the Supreme Lord, and these are all secondary. And I don't know why people categorize like, not eating meat and onion, garlic is our primary thing, right?
Yeah.
That's not the primary thing, right, Prabhu? We are glorified.
No, certainly not. Yeah, I mean, being a vegetarian is nothing great because even animals are vegetarians. Like the goats, they are vegetarians. So what's glorious in being a vegetarian alone? I mean, Garuda, who is a carrier of Lord Vishnu, eats meat and he's still doing the service of Lord Vishnu. Isn't it? Garuda is a non-vegetarian. He's a devotee. He's a Vaishnava. So what is glorious in simply being a vegetarian? So that is not at all a goal. Goal is to serve. That is for sure. And you see, in the age of Kali Yuga, everything is topsy-turvy. If you are good, if you don't smoke and drink, you're condemned for it. That is a problem. If you say somebody like, you want, come, let's go and, thrash this guy. Let's go beat him up. You'll get all your society boys to come with you probably. But if you say somebody, come on, let's help out in some charity work, and there will be probably none to come. So in the age of Kali Yuga, everything is topsy-turvy. What is good is considered bad, and what is bad is considered good. But I don't think so. Everybody speaks the same because now even modern science has proven that being a vegetarian is good, and all the qualities and the rules that devotees follow are very conducive for good health. Very conducive for good health. I made a seminar called as Bound to be Free. The advantages of following the 4 regulative principles with statistics. It is so amazing. It's so amazing to know that how beneficial it is to simply follow the 4 regulative principles. So there is a question that whether it's on YouTube. I'm not sure. I think so. want, I can maybe give you a seminar on that. I don't know. Probably it was recorded or it was not recorded properly. So I had given it many years ago. That time they did not have a good sound system in the temple. So it was not recorded. Audio was not very clear. So unless the recording is not clear, I don't generally advise people to go and check it out. But if you all want, I can do that seminar for you. It was actually based on a book by Prabhupada's disciple. I just presented it in the form of slides. So no glory to me in that. Yeah, so there's another question by Rajiv Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Probably very nice class. Prabhuji, you give an example of the sannyas.
Rajiv, can you switch on your video or something like that? It'll be more personal, yeah? Oh, yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Yeah. Prabhuji, this sannyas, you said sannyas meaning is not leaving a home or a house, but leaving the sense object. Whereas you also gave an example that an incident, Prabhupada immediately took a sannyas on that incident. So, how these are correlated? The incident happened and Prabhupada took a sannyas, and in a normal life, a sannyas does not mean a leaving a house, but a leaving a sense object.
How can that happen? How does that happen?
And how these are correlated? I mean, on one side, the statement is that he took immediate sannyas, right? On the second thing, don't leave a house, but just leave the sense object.
Yes. So Prabhupada says, he gives, actually Krishna gives the example in the Bhagavad Gita that of a lotus in a mud pond. It's there in the mud, but it's not touching the mud. Similarly, we can live in the house and we still be detached. And the example is of the gopis. That when they heard Krishna blow the flute, they gave up everything and ran to meet Krishna. That goes to show that even though they were at home, they were not attached. They were simply working out of an obligation. So devotees, they use whatever they have, their home and their facilities, in order to serve and facilitate the Krishna consciousness movement. Actually, Prabhupada, when he was Grasta, he would sponsor the programs, he would give charity to the Gaudiya Math, he would facilitate, he would use his contacts to make some arrangements for devotees to stay. You see, so that means when you're using your facilities that you have to the best of your ability in Krishna's service for the movement, that means that goes to show that you are detached. Because unless you are not detached, you cannot serve Krishna. Say you have something. Unless, if you are attached to it, you would not like to share. When will you be able to share? When your attachment is not so much with this, but with that person that you care, like for your children. You're willing to share everything for your children. Why? Because of affection. So similarly, when your affection for Krishna and the devotees is there, then you won't mind sharing whatever you have with them. Just as you do it for your own people. Now, you have to think in terms of Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Everyone belongs to the Lord. We are one big family. Why just limit your family to your home, to your wife, to your children? But love thy neighbor as thyself. You know, they say in the Bible. So,
yeah, that is true, Prabhuji. But in case of that, in case of a Prabhupada, he was probably sannyas from a childhood, and that incident become just to leave the house. I mean that Prabhupada, when he leaves the house, that is not a point when he took a sannyas. He was a sannyasi from a childhood itself. No?
Yeah. Yes. But that's what the point that I was trying to make is that Prabhupada, when he found his family life I mean, he could have continued even at home, even though if you are saying that he was a sannyasi even from childhood, which is right actually, then why didn't he continue in his household life? So the point that I was trying to make is that when his house became unfavorable for increasing his service to Krishna, that is the time when he left it. He would not have been able to do what he did if he would have been in household life. He would have not been able to be sannyasi and go abroad and do all these things. That was the point. Yes.
Yeah, got it, Prabhuji. Yes, yeah, just got it. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Beautiful answer. Anybody have any question? Please go ahead. Prabhuji, I have a small question, Prabhuji. You gave the example of Ramana Acharya and Dhanudas. Ramana Acharya and his wife, they both are thinking like always serve the devotees, disciples. But I'm talking about myself, Prabhuji. I'm a practicing devotee, so my mind is not always serve the devotees. How could I think like that, Prabhuji? Always serve the devotees and don't expect anything from others.
You can learn these things when you come across a very, very advanced devotee. Devotee who's actually doing it. That's why we say that take association. You cannot get it on your own. You cannot get it by reading the books alone. You need a person Bhagavad. And therefore, whenever you get an opportunity, you should come to Vrindavan and associate with great devotees, with spiritual master. That is the way. Otherwise, it is not possible. Sorry to say, but it's not possible. Bhakti and inspiration comes from people. Just as water comes from pipes, electricity comes through electric cables, inspiration to serve devotees will also come from people. That is
Thank you, Prabhuji.
So there are some comments that people have made that Lord Chaitanya took sannyas for several reasons, and Prabhupada wanted to carry his good vision, and that's why even Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya took sannyas because he wanted to preach. Actually, sannyas is forbidden in this age. Truly, it's forbidden. Only if one wants to preach, he should take sannyas. Hare Krishna. So thank you very much again for this opportunity to speak to all of you. It was a pleasure. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for enlightening class today. We are very grateful to you, and we look forward your association again and again in the future. Let's pay our obeisance to Prabhuji and all assembled devotees. Panchakalpatarubhesha Krupasindhuneva Patitanam Pavanobhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Grantra Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Please, grace.
Akincana Krishna Prabhu.
Krishna Prabhuji. Jai. Thank you, Prabhu, for such a wonderful class.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Dandavat pranam. Thank you, Prabhu. Wonderful class. Thank you so much.
Thank you everyone for joining today's Bhagavatam class. We'll meet again tomorrow. Hare Krishna, Indu, Lekha, Prema, Mayi Mataji. Thank you so much for
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Tamagari Mataji, want
Thank
to
you.
share something, Mataji?
No, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Laura, you're so beautiful today. We're sorry. It's so beautiful.
Tamagari Mataji has today program in their house Sunday, right? So
Yeah. Every Sunday we have Sunday peace program. It starts at 9 o'clock. At the end of the thing.
You look like a goddess.
Yeah. Thank you.
thank you everyone.